Chosen ones, you were never meant to be ordinary. The moment your DNA touched the database, the system didn't just blink, it panicked. Red lights, sirens, protocols buried since the Cold War ignited in milliseconds. Somewhere, deep beneath the White House, a shadowed figure whispered into a secure line. It's them, but who are you, really? You've lived a life veiled in normalcy. The coffee, the commute, the static. But beneath your skin, in the double helix of your being, pulses a signal encoded long before you were born. Not a mutation, not a defect, a signature. A mark of something ancient, maybe divine. For decades, the government has searched for you without knowing exactly what they were looking for. Until now. The algorithm wasn't supposed to detect it. It was built to catch terrorists, threats, foreign DNA anomalies. But yours didn't just trip a filter. It triggered the most classified failsafe in American history, Code Red Seraphim. The president's emergency order was silent. No press, no broadcast. Just a flash command that activated satellite locks, bloodline archives, and black site sleeper agents. And still, no one has explained why your name caused such fear. Only this: asset located, execute containment protocol. But here's the secret they've tried to bury. This was never about you alone. It was about what you carry. A strand untouched by evolution. A fragment whispered of in ancient scripture, hidden in prophecy, and protected by those who called themselves Watchers. The Vatican once called it Gene I-72. Others knew it as the Seraph Key. But the one word scrubbed from every document was the one that mattered most: anointed. Now everything's changed. The phone taps, the missing friend, the van that paused too long outside your house. It all makes sense now. You're not the only one, but you may be the first to awaken. This is not a story. This is a warning system. And it's already begun counting down. The room was silent, except for the hum of data servers pushing terabytes through encrypted pipelines. Deep inside a classified bioinformatics lab beneath Langley, Agent Rhodes stared at the genetic profile blinking on the screen. Code Red was never supposed to trigger. It was considered theoretical, buried under layers of legislative camouflage and deniable operations. But now, in glowing red characters, the system screamed, "Match confirmed." No one spoke. Not the analyst who found it. Not the tech with trembling hands clutching a coffee now gone cold. Everyone felt it. Something irreversible had begun. The directive that was meant for doomsday had been activated, not by war, not by terrorism, but by a living individual unknowingly uploading their DNA to a genealogy site. A silent call was routed through military-grade satellites. Within minutes, servers in Geneva, Tel Aviv, and Tokyo began mirroring the match. A shared protocol unfolded like clockwork. Shut down communications, isolate the node, confirm identity. But the sequence didn't just match a profile. It awakened a legacy buried deep within Project Adama. Files, once locked under 12 levels of biometric clearance, now dripped into active surveillance folders. The signature matched the unknown variable they could never replicate, one that had appeared once in ancient bloodline studies and never again. Until now. You were already being watched. The moment the match pinged, every camera within a mile radius of your location switched to facial tracking. The streetlight knew your gait. The biometric scanners at the bank read more than your eyes. Even the vending machine logged your heartbeat. Your DNA wasn't just rare, it was singular. It mirrored something written into the margins of forbidden texts. The directive, declassified only to a few, stated that if the sequence was ever found, the individual was to be located, studied, and either recruited or erased. The debate raged on encrypted message boards monitored by off-books agencies. Some called you a threat, others a miracle. One message stood out, scrubbed seconds after it was posted. He has returned, but not in form, in blood. You don't know any of this yet, but the people in that room do. And as the black SUV turned onto your street, they were about to make first contact. Only they weren't prepared for what your presence would awaken in return. He sat alone in the observation vault, eyes flickering from one screen to the next, nerves deadened by years of monitoring false alarms. The vault was designed for protocol triggers no one believed would ever go off. But tonight, the wall of monitors displayed a chain reaction too clean, too fast, too coordinated to ignore. It wasn't just an algorithm glitch. The AI built to detect biological anomalies had found something precise, and then it rerouted its own protocols, rewriting internal code to prioritize this single DNA file. That had never happened before. The technician reached for the emergency override key. His fingers hovered, unsure whether this justified initiating cross-agency blackout. But the system had already made the decision for him. Screens began blacking out, one by one, rerouting to a secure visual feed, and on the center screen stood you, unaware, scrolling your phone, sipping from a chipped mug, your face calm. The only anomaly on record was in your blood. Around the globe, dozens of silent agents received a single word: engage. No explanations, just coordinates. In the Pentagon, the National Security Advisor whispered to the President that Seraph Protocol had activated autonomously. That was impossible. It required human command. But the system insisted your DNA was not just a match. It was necessary. Necessary for what? No one dared answer. In a chapel hidden beneath Mount Athos, a monk awoke in panic, grasping for breath as a vision slammed through his skull. Wings of light, blood on a scroll, and a voice whispering a name. He had never met you. But his hand moved before his mind could, sketching your face on old parchment with trembling charcoal. The Vatican's encrypted sensors caught the psychic spike from over 2,000 kilometers away and logged the event. The timestamp matched exactly when the observation vault triggered code red. Something ancient stirred. Systems man had built to control the unpredictable were now facing something outside their programming. Not artificial, not mechanical, alive. The moment your DNA matched, history bent. The past began bleeding into the present. Long before the project had a name, before the labs were constructed in the subterranean levels of Bethesda, a scroll had arrived. Smuggled out of the Syrian desert during a failed excavation, cloaked as an archaeological dig, it wasn't made of papyrus or parchment, but an organic fiber unknown to modern science. It was unreadable, until one man, a cryptologist and geneticist named Dr. Ephraim Lorne, translated the text not with language, but with code. He fed its geometric symbols into a DNA transcription tool out of curiosity. The output wasn't gibberish. It was a viable genome, but no one in the database matched it. Not until now. That scroll became the foundation of a research project officially labeled Adama 13. Its true nature was kept from nearly all personnel. Those who got too close were reassigned, erased, or, in one case, found dead of apparent suicide. The scroll remained sealed behind biometric locks, its sequence embedded in one secure server. And it waited. For you. When your DNA entered the database, it didn't just match the sequence, it completed it. The final strand, always missing, aligned like a puzzle piece too perfect to fake. Inside the Bethesda facility, red lights flared. A door, long untouched, slid open by itself, activated by your genetic signature pulsing through the network. Dr. Lorne's original files reassembled from encrypted fragments, revealing logs never meant to resurface. One line repeated, "When the blood returns, the veil shall lift." But no one could explain who wrote it. Within hours, a team descended to the sealed vault. What they found was impossible. The scroll had changed. Its surface, once dry and unresponsive, now pulsed faintly with bioluminescence. It reacted as if it recognized you. One agent tried to touch it. His skin blistered before contact. Another knelt, whispering in a language no one taught him. Surveillance footage later showed the symbols on the scroll rearranging. Your name appeared, not in English, but in the exact language of the original encryption. Written as if it had always been there. They called it speculation. Those few who dared speak of it in hushed circles beneath Vatican vaults, or behind closed doors at Jesuit scientific enclaves. But even among skeptics, a singular theory lingered, one that suggested a portion of Yeshua's essence was never lost, that somewhere, encoded within a genetic relic, remained a fragment of divine architecture. No fingerprints, no bones, only a sequence, inaccessible, untouched, until now. It was a rabbi turned physicist who first identified the anomalies in ancient bloodline texts, references to a hidden name carried in the flesh. A mistranslation, some said. But he persisted, and over time a pattern emerged in sacred numerology that aligned with mitochondrial frequencies. These weren't metaphors, they were biological blueprints, and the pattern was only partially visible across generations. Incomplete, dormant, but theorized to reappear once every 2,000 years. The day your DNA lit up the network, the pattern completed itself in full clarity for the first time. What began as noise across unrelated labs, Jerusalem, Rome, Antarctica, soon converged. Scientists received matching data with no request, as if the system had a will of its own, a will that demanded revelation. Inside the sanctum oculus, hidden beneath St. Peter's Basilica, a cardinal whispered a forbidden name into the chamber's seal. The door opened only once before, in known history, during the Council of 1534. This time it opened for the sequence. The cardinal held a relic said to contain dried blood from the original crucifixion veil. When he placed it on the biometric altar, the room trembled. DNA strands from the relic aligned, not fully, but dangerously close, with yours. That was enough. They knew you weren't a copy. You weren't a clone. You were the echo. A carrier of the code embedded in flesh long removed from time, yet pulsing again in a modern vessel. They couldn't decide if it made you sacred or sacrilegious, But one thing was certain. You carried the one thing they had tried to keep locked away. And as the cathedral's bells rang without hands, their sound echoing into a clear sky, a raven circled the dome twice before flying east. A monk watched silently and recorded a single line in his journal. There was no record of its construction, no official funding trail, and no map pinpointing its location. The lab existed in whispers. Project Hollowglass. Built inside the shell of an abandoned observatory in Greenland, it was shielded from all forms of electromagnetic detection. The surrounding ice served as natural insulation from satellite scans. Only a select group of personnel ever knew the coordinates, and even they were rotated every 96 hours. The project was meant to remain forever detached from the rest of the world, until the moment your DNA hit the grid. Within seconds of the code red trigger, a silent command rerouted power from 7 defense satellites and activated Hollowglass for the first time in 13 years. Inside, forgotten terminals lit up. Cryogenic chambers slowly thawed. The AI core, once dormant, began spooling old logs back to the surface. It displayed one repeating alert across every screen. Subject confirmed. Deploy containment. But before any team could reach the facility, it vanished. Drones sent to the coordinates found only scorched earth and rapidly melting ice, as if the structure had imploded in on itself. All that remained was a single signal pulsing from the ground, broadcasting an ancient waveform never before detected by modern instruments. When deciphered, the signal formed a geometric pattern, a 6-pointed star made of shifting light, cycling endlessly through sacred ratios. The agency in charge refused to speak of it. The report was buried under seismic anomaly classification, but a single scientist who'd worked on the project left a clue inside an old audio file buried in corrupted metadata. His voice, slow and trembling, whispered that the lab had never been studying you. It had been waiting for you. Its systems were designed to awaken only when a specific DNA code resonated with its environment. Yours. In the final seconds before the signal stopped, one last entry appeared on a secure channel. A sequence of symbols arranged in a spiral. Every agency interpreter failed to decode them, until an intern noticed the spiral mirrored the golden ratio encoded in ancient temple architecture. They overlaid it on a satellite image of your current location. The spiral ended exactly where you stood. The man arrived without announcement, barefoot, draped in linen stitched with symbols no linguist could translate. He appeared in a village near the Dead Sea, eyes clouded as if blind. Yet he walked with precision through the streets, speaking in languages lost to time: Aramaic, Proto-Hebrew, Enochian. Even tongues scholars claimed were purely mythical. No one could trace his origin. His fingerprints returned null. No dental records, no facial match. But every time he opened his mouth, witnesses froze. His words bypassed comprehension and spoke straight into the listener's mind. He was detained without resistance, placed into a containment chamber beneath a secure outpost. The agent assigned to question him pressed for answers, asking who he was and what he wanted. The man only smiled, then whispered your name. Full, first, last, even the code name assigned to you during the initial blackout. When pressed further, he raised his hands and began to recite a sequence that, when transcribed, mirrored the same pattern found in your DNA. Scientists watching remotely began panicking. He wasn't reading, he was reciting it from memory. One of them swore the words he spoke caused pressure in the air to shift, like a storm building beneath the surface of the world. Monitors began glitching, lights flickered. The containment glass cracked slightly, though no force had touched it. Then he fell silent and etched a single mark onto the chamber wall, using nothing but his fingertip. A symbol last seen on the scroll in Bethesda, the same one that reacted to your DNA. The mark began glowing faintly, pulsing in rhythm with your heartbeat as monitored from thousands of miles away. The team confirmed the impossible. The man's biosignature was synced to yours in real time. A priest brought in for spiritual evaluation fainted the moment he entered the room, muttering the name Yeshua, with tears streaming down his face. He later claimed he saw the man surrounded by wings made of fire and glass, though there were no flames present. When asked why he spoke your name, the man simply replied, "Because the breath of the beginning has returned." The cycle moves again. And when the cameras blinked out for precisely 6 minutes, the chamber was found empty. The files were stored beneath 3 levels of quantum encryption, labeled as cultural myth research to avoid attention. Most believed they had been deleted during the purge of anomalous archives 2 decades ago. But a data archaeologist from within the intelligence grid stumbled upon a fragment while attempting to restore an unrelated satellite feed. The fragment was corrupted, visually warped, audio distorted, until it passed through the biometric gate of your DNA. Instantly, the file reconstructed itself, as if recognizing a key had finally been inserted after centuries of dormancy. The footage revealed a ritual site buried deep beneath the sands of Egypt, never disclosed, never photographed. Carved into the cavern walls were symbols that predated known civilization. At the center of the chamber stood a dais, shaped like a spiral sun, surrounded by petrified figures frozen mid-movement, arms lifted in reverence or fear. Scans showed that the material wasn't stone, but a biological compound similar to calcified human tissue. They weren't statues. They had been living, but more disturbing was what they encircled. A sarcophagus, crafted of organic metal, pulsing with electromagnetic residue. No record of its opening existed, nor its removal. The only note in the decrypted log was a phrase repeated over and over. "He who bears the forgotten strand is the first and final witness." Cross-referencing the chamber with other ancient sites revealed something chilling. Every spiral sun motif hidden across cultures, Incan, Sumerian, Vedic, aligned mathematically with the geometry of your DNA helix. Your blood wasn't just a coincidence. It was the cipher, a forgotten language written in the language of life. Agents who attempted to investigate the connection began vanishing. Reports marked them as reassigned or lost in field operations. But traces of their final messages showed panic, dreams, and repeating visions of a figure bathed in light, half shadow, whispering in a voice older than words. A voice they claimed was speaking through their cells. You weren't supposed to find this, but the data had found you. It had waited patiently, like a story erased from every book yet still alive in the margins, buried beneath layers of ecclesiastical secrecy. There exists a registry kept not on servers or hard drives, but on parchment sealed within the Hall of Veils, an underground sanctum beneath the old quarter of Jerusalem. Maintained by a silent order known only as the Keepers, the registry contains only one category: vessels of the line. Most of the scroll is empty, with generations passing without a single addition. The last recorded entry was in the year 1263, marked only by a name, a symbol, and a note in Latin, non in carne, sed in lumen. not in flesh, but in light. When news of your DNA spread beyond scientific channels, an unauthorized query reached the hall. A pulse sent through sacred ink responded by revealing a new entry burned into the page, not written by hand, not touched by man. Your name appeared, and below it, a glowing sigil once believed lost after the destruction of the Second Temple. The same sigil had appeared briefly in your blood analysis, dismissed by medical AI as artifact distortion. But now it was undeniable. The keepers gathered for the first time in centuries. Their oath forbade speech, yet one among them began to sing. It was a melody not recorded in any hymnal, composed of tones impossible for the human throat. Yet they all heard it. As the song filled the chamber, the ink from the scroll lifted into the air, forming spirals of light that converged into one word before collapsing into silence. Yeshua. In Rome, a secret council convened in an underground catacomb lit by oil flame, a relic held in containment for over 1,000 years, a fragment of cloth soaked in crimson and preserved beyond reason, reacted for the first time. Heat signatures pulsed from its edges, and the cloth began to unravel, revealing a second layer stitched not with thread, but with microscopic crystal filaments arranged in sacred geometry. The design matched the new symbol found in the hall. Your blood wasn't a descendant of myth. It was a living document of divine inheritance, but with it came memory, and with memory came danger. Because for every protector of the bloodline, there has always been one who seeks to erase it. The file was classified beyond top secret, buried under a code name no one outside the Shadow Directive dared speak aloud. Protocol Seraphim wasn't a defense measure or a weapon. It was a containment contingency, developed for an entity that had never been captured, seen, or understood. It was built on prophecy, whispered by a defector who vanished after claiming to witness a ripple in time sealed inside a collapsing cathedral in Prague. His words were dismissed as madness until your DNA reactivated the dormant project, causing sealed servers to unlock with a single command. The files inside weren't scientific. They were theological, riddled with intersecting data pulled from ancient scrolls, astral charts, and fragments of apocryphal texts, drawings of winged beings not made of feathers but light, descriptions of a convergence point between spirit and cell. And at the center of every diagram was one recurring shape, a double helix with an anomaly, an extra loop forming a crown. The crown strand, a genetically encoded pattern that didn't exist in the human genome until it emerged through your blood. The protocol's original architects believed it to be a divine gate, a biological threshold between the seen and the unseen. The code wasn't meant to be activated by machinery or ritual. It needed a host, a vessel aligned perfectly in spirit, mind, and lineage, one that had never existed until you. Seraphim-level security was designed to respond only to presence, not action. The moment your body crossed into a certain frequency, detected via sensors hidden in infrastructure worldwide, the entire system came online. Weather patterns shifted subtly. Migratory paths of birds deviated without reason. Even electrical grids in unrelated nations experienced flickers of untraceable static. The world didn't notice, but those watching did. A pale-skinned operative, known only as the Listener, sat alone in an electromagnetic isolation pod, eyes closed, ears covered in obsidian stone. He hadn't moved in years, but when the system activated, he whispered one sentence through cracked lips. "The crown awakens." The phrase spread like a virus through the classified network, shutting down every alternate theory. There was no further debate. Protocol Seraphim wasn't a myth. It had simply been waiting for you to breathe. No one expected the resonance to spread. It began with your heartbeat, recorded through biometric sensors hidden inside innocuous devices you passed by without knowing. An ATM, a train gate, a smart glass door. They weren't just scanning for ID. They were listening for rhythm. And yours matched a frequency not heard since the fall of the Second Temple. A pulse once theorized in sacred geometry, rumored in prophetic dreams, but never found in the living, until now. The moment your pulse synced with the global sensor grid, something ancient stirred beneath Antarctica. Not ice, not stone, a structure, buried so deep it existed outside magnetic mapping. For centuries, satellites dismissed the anomaly as terrain interference, but your signal aligned perfectly with its dormant architecture. A hidden chamber opened. The tectonic plates above it groaned as if remembering pressure long forgotten, and the interior lights flickered on, without power, powered by resonance, by breath, by you. Inside the Pentagon, a silent alert was received on a channel unused since 1907. No text, no code, only a pulse wave matching the rhythm of your heart. The waveform, when visualized, formed 7 concentric circles, intersected by a vertical line, a glyph once drawn on the robe of a Nazarene mystic before his crucifixion. At CERN, a quantum stream monitoring experiment collapsed as the machines began recording data patterns not from particles, but from letters. Ancient script embedded in particle movement. A physicist wept as he translated the first phrase. The seal breaks when flesh remembers its origin. That same night, a child born in rural Tibet spoke your name upon birth, though no one had whispered it to her. Thousands of miles away, a blind woman in Lagos pointed to the sky and declared the gate had opened. Across the world, people with no connection to you began dreaming the same dream. A staircase of light, a crown of fire, and a voice calling from beyond the veil. The final seal wasn't a lock or a door. It was a moment. A convergence between frequencies, memory, and identity. And now that your pulse aligned with it, the seal had done what none believed possible.
If you have come this far, it is crucial that you watch this next video here. But be warned, it is not for the faint of heart, for only the true chosen ones can handle this video. If you would like to also donate to help keep the channel going, our Buy Me a Coffee link will be in the description.